This is Straight Talk with Atlanta native Greg Fann, the preacher man, and his sidekick Shanan Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fann, the preacher man.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the preacher man, and Shanan E. Jones. And Shanan, he'll join us on the other side after news and information from his seat. But before we begin and hear from his seat, we'll just thank those of you who send your comments, those who we see in the churches and other events and things that we may have be in attendance to around the city. I want to thank, it was good seeing Mrs. Canyon, the wife of Pastor Canyon. Thank you, Bishop Canyon. And thank you guys for your comments always about the program. Thank you, Pastor Sean Smith, for your comments. I want to thank those of you, my pastor, Pastor DeWitt Smith. And I want to also thank Police Chief Keith Meadows for his comments as you continue to watch Straight Talk, and do share Straight Talk with your family and friends. And you can view it at any time. You can just go on our YouTube channel, see any of our previous programs and our current programs. And when the program come on, you just have to click the link when you hit it, okay? I mean, when it comes on. Well, when you get ready to watch it, excuse me, I'm sorry. Some people don't watch it when it comes on because it's pre-recorded. Just click the link, will you, and check it out and do share with your Facebook friends and family. We'll be talking about what's happening with the Proud Boys. We'll be talking about what happened with former President Trump. We'll be talking about what's going on with the Chief Justice Clarence Thomas and much, much more. You don't want to miss today's program. It's really, really Straight Talk. Now, here's Miss C with news and information right here on Straight Talk. And we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast or more. Hello, Bishop Fann. Hello, Pastor Shanan. I hope you all are doing well. I'm just so excited to be here today. You know, I'm excited to be alive, and I'm so glad that all of you have joined us week after week and see what's going on with Straight Talk News. And so I've got some more good stuff for you today, okay? And listen, Pastor Greg and Pastor Shanan, you all said something so profound on one of your shows, and I was going to mention it to you because that was the only time I ever heard anything kind of devastating. But you all said something, it was so great. I just don't know what it was, but I'll try to remember the next time and let you know. But you did say something good one time, so take it from me. That's great. Anyway, a clergy and public safety forum will be held May 23rd, 2023 at 10 a.m. at the Enon Church, 3550 Enon Road in Southwest Atlanta. The topic of discussion will be guns and gun violence. This event is sponsored by the South Fulton Ministerial Alliance, the Concerned Black Clergy of Metro Atlanta, and the Metro Atlanta Ministerial Alliance. For more information, contact our own Bishop Greg Fann at 404-756-7546. A free breakfast will be served also. Kingdom Fellowship Ministries at 955 Campbellton Road in Southwest Atlanta invites you to worship with them each Sunday from 9:30 to 10:30. The pastor is Pastor Stanley Calloway. New Dimension Church of God in Christ at 61 Bisbee Avenue in Southeast Atlanta invites you to their worship experience each Sunday at 10 a.m. Kevin Bean is pastor. And listen, I'd like for you to do 4 things for me. I'd like for you to I'd like for you to like us. I'd like for you to subscribe to us, and those little buttons are right there on the front of the screen. And I'd like for you to leave comments. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to hear. And number 4 is to tell people, share us. Let people know that Straight Talk News is here, and particularly Miss C is here too with your news of importance. Anyway, if you would like us to announce your event, email it to me at straighttalknews1362 at gmail.com. That's straighttalknews1362 at gmail.com. And in the meantime and in between time, we're going to see you next time, okay? May the Lord God bless you real good. Bye now.
Well, thank you, Miss C. And Miss C does a tremendous job. But I tell you, she wants to be a headliner, Shannon. She wants to be a headliner. She every chance
You
she
know she's a
gets,
headliner.
she every chance she gets, she always want to crack. Every chance she gets, she want to crack on
She said,
somebody.
"This is what Miss C say." She said, "You just make it so easy, Greg."
But anyway, well, we want to just remind you, Ms. C said it, we want to remind you, all clergy, all hands on deck. As we know, there is we want to call it a disease in our society today, a disease. With all this gun violence, all this killing, we know what happened just the other day. Young man went into a medical facility, killed one lady, and wounded three other ladies. I mean, it's a disease. And then they're going back again, throwing rocks off of bridges, stabbing. I mean, you name it, people are doing it. There's no place safe anywhere. So listen, we're going to be having the forum for the clergy. That's South Florida Ministry Alliance. That's CBC, Concerned Black Clergy, and Atlanta Metro Alliance. We've come together to bring law enforcement and preachers together to talk about how can we work together to help in the issues that we're seeing in our society today. And I believe that by faith, and I believe in a higher power, whether you call him God, Jehovah, Yahweh, or whatever you may call him, but as we believe in a higher power, that things can change and things will change if we call on the one who is in control of all things. So we want to have this forum. We'll be serving breakfast. We're starting at 10 a.m. at the Enon Church, where the pastor is Reverend Dr. Gregory Pollard. And the city gave you the address and everything. And so you have it. Come on out and be a part. We're looking for all preachers, all hands on deck. Do register. You can register by calling me at area code 404-756. That's 44756-7546. We need to have a count because we're serving breakfast, and we want to have enough food for everybody to eat, because we know preachers love to eat. So Shannon, let's talk about some of the things that's going on. I think let's start off with the Proud Boys, and then we'll move from the Proud Boys,
Before
and then
we
we'll talk.
grab the Proud Boys, can
Okay.
let me just tag along
Sure.
on that, because
Okay.
you know that I was the Concerned Black Clergy was I'm going to say attacked. I'm not going to say who did it. Many people in the community and those in the know who did it, but there was a spirit behind it. There is a story that was written based on our press conference, clergy press conference, which we had with Concerned Black Clergy. South Florida Ministerial Alliance pastors were a part of that. The Metropolitan Atlanta Ministerial Alliance members were a part of that. And several other organizations, COB, SCLC. We came together against the violent protests that we saw happening at the proposed Justice Training Center site that is known affectionately now as Cop City. And so Scallywag
Let's stop with that. Let's stop calling it that. Let's call it what it is, a training center. And it's to train officers to do what those officers did the other day and save lives. That's when they came together. They had to be trained.
That's it for me, Bishop. And I think that, and for many people who understand the role of proper policing. And so Scallywag magazine, which I'd never heard of before, did an interview with me, and I sat graciously for an hour with this reporter. And in the beginning of it, she let me know going to be that she had a bent, that she had she was not going to be totally objective. And I said, generally I end press conferences, I end press avails at that point, because I'm not interested in speaking to someone about a position that is trying to force their position over my position. And so, excuse me, Bishop. So I did the interview, and basically she said that CBC and the ministers, that we are entrenched with the Atlanta police. And I just, I thought it was a well written article, but I thought that it was intellectually and journalistically dishonest. She could not give an example of that. There is no example of that. We are not entrenched. You've been in those meetings, Bishop, when we are talking to law enforcement, like the meeting we're getting ready to have on the 23rd. And we have serious conversation in those meetings. And I think the police understand what the community's view is. And we began to get a better understanding of, how of the optic of the police. This justice training center, which will also train EMS and fire, our position is that as it is being built, that we want to have oversight. We want to have community oversight. We're working towards that. So, there is a move afoot. One gentleman that came to Concerned Black Clergy said, why are clergy involved in this in the first place? As though we have a priestly role just to sit back and wash feet and baptize folk. But this is a person that doesn't understand history. There's not a seagoing vessel that hits the water before it is blessed. There's not a military that goes into war until that military is prayed for and blessed. The king never moved without the prophet. And the problem that we're having in society today is that they're trying to marginalize the prophetic voice of the church, particularly the black church. And for someone to ask black preachers who have given our lives to stand on the battlefield and to place our bodies in the struggle for black advancement, for someone to stand back and say, why are black preachers involved in this? As you are walking in the front door of places that you had to walk in the back door of, it just tells me that you don't understand the role of the black church and the power of the black church. So we're calling on pastors to come outside of the four walls of your church. Come on, let's be in this meeting together. Let's get together again. We have to link arms, clergy, and be at the center of this, because black life is existing without the prophetic voice, the priestly voice, and the pastoral voice being in their ear and before them. And we know that that is dangerous. And so we have to get linked up together, and we have to place our bodies in the struggle again, and we have to make a sanctuary at the intersection of church and society.
Well, well said, and that's the purpose of doing this, because we are the leaders of the voice of the community, and we want to sit down with law enforcement and talk about what it is that we see, what are we hearing, what's going on, how can we partner and work and make things better for our society that we live in today. We can't live for tomorrow, yesterday, but we can live for today and to tomorrow to come. And that's the purpose of us sitting down and talking and discussing. And certainly hope that, again, I would hope that others would come out and be a part and participate. And stop sitting around the water cooler talking about what's going on. Let's start doing something about it. Well, now, if we could, now, we want to talk a little bit about what happened to the Proud Boys who Donald Trump incited, worked with, to overthrow the presidential election, which, it's amazing. We're still dealing with this in 2023, right? And this happened in 2020. And we're still dealing with this in 2023. It's almost 2024, and we're going to have another presidential election. And we're still dealing with the aftermath of the foolishness that Donald Trump and his comrades promoted. And I wish I had my clips. I was going to do clips today of, what's his name? The man who, his name does not escape me. His name is Ted Cruz. The man Ted Cruz, who talked about him being a Marxist, about being a perpetual liar, and all that when he was running for president, right? How bad Trump would be as the president. And there was another one, what's his name? Oh, Lindsey Graham. He said the similar things about Donald Trump when Trump was running for president. He's not a Republican. He's not a part of the party. He's not a true Republican, and he's not going to not be good for the country. But these same two gentlemen now have defended him and tried to overthrow the election and was a part of trying to overthrow the election, right? So, but before Donald Trump wasn't fit to be the president. He was not a real Republican. He was a businessman and a bad businessman. All those things they said about him. But now they've done everything, have done everything to try to get him the presidency, stay in the White House. Ain't that something? Isn't that something?
It is something, Bishop. First of all, we have to ring Straight Talk's bell because we were calling this sedition back when they were calling this a tour. And sedition is a heck of a sentence that had been handed down. I think it's a Civil War charge, and it hadn't been handed down in years and years and years. And so, I think it was since the Civil War, sedition has not been. So to see them get a sedition capital tour is an interesting scenario, and it beckons back to what we were saying when we were saying that was ludicrous when they were saying that this was just a tour. This was a plot to overthrow the certifying of an election. It was a plot to overthrow the ways and means of our government and of this nation, and so I think rightfully so. They committed sedition there at the site, and I believe the leader of that was not on site, but was calling in orders, and those orders were being followed. But there was another leader who was not on site, who told them that he'd be there with them, but he got in his motorcade and went back to the White House. But he did not call in for them to stop the strikes that they were doing against the United States Capitol building. He did not try to stop them. So I think that there might be a fifth person that needs to be looked at in this case, and that is that of former President Donald Trump. So, and I think that we need to separate. This is a problem that conservatives get into. We can separate the policies and the economic policies and the things that the conservatives liked about Trump. We can separate that from the actions of commander-in-chief. There's another role that a president has as commander-in-chief, to sit back, Bishop, and to allow that to happen. What nation could have done that? Would we have allowed Russians with that? Would we have allowed the Saudis to do a tour like that? North Korea to do a tour, quote unquote, like that? But we allowed the Proud Boys and others, Trump-leaning fascist paramilitary group to go in and to do what I consider to be nothing less than a terroristic attack against this nation.
I think what you say, I know what you say, most Americans feel that way. Most Americans feel that way. And the reason we feel that way is because we know what we saw. The videos, the attack on the Capitol, the lives that were lost, the people that were beaten, and all these things that were going on at that time, that we had a commander-in-chief who would not say, hey, enough is enough, stop this, right? And even those people who are still supporting him, the Jim Jordan and the Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I can go on and on and on and on, who are still supporting him in the act, and their lives was in jeopardy. But they still want to support him. I don't know why they're doing it, but they are doing it, and this country is totally divided with that. And I'm glad that justice has prevailed in terms of what's happening with the case with the Proud Boys. But I think there's going to be some more stuff falling down with Mr. Trump. The judge in the Manhattan case has said that Mr. Trump, he must stop. He's going to be making all these excuses that he cannot appear in court, We're going to do a pre-hearing, and he's got to make himself available for Zoom. And in February or March, when the trial is next year, when the trial takes place, then Mr. Trump himself has to be there, and he has to curtail his messages of trying to bully folks, talking about the judge, talking about witnesses, and trying to cause witnesses to be bullied by him. So I mean, all this stuff it is taking a long time, but it's happening now, and it looks like justice moves slow, but justice will prevail. Right does prevail over wrong over a period of time. It's just it has messed up this country while we're waiting on justice. When we have a Supreme Court judge who's been there for years and years and years, and all the stuff that's coming out about Mr. Thomas, and his taking money from a financial donor who is strictly a donor for Republican candidates, and him and his wife, and how much money they made and not reported, and there's no check and balances for the judges, the justices, and that's just not on the Supreme Court level, but that's justices, period. So I mean, there is an ethics that code that they must abide by, but who's going to enforce them abiding by the code, right? So they got to be self-checked. So I mean, these are things that we're finding out all because of what Mr. Trump did, right? All because of what he called, and while people are running now, you know, a lot of people are quiet now, Shannon. You don't hear a lot of people who were speaking out before speaking out now. Now that indictments are coming down.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that interesting? And Malcolm X, Malik El-Haj Shabazz, warned Clarence Thomas about this many years ago, before he was assassinated, when he said that the chickens come home to roost after the assassination of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I say that he warned Clarence Thomas because Clarence Thomas was a devotee of Malcolm X, and a lot of people don't know that. Clarence Thomas was a member of or studied the Black Panther Party. Many people don't know that. Clarence Thomas wrote a letter to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to become a member of the Nation of Islam. Many people do not know that. So he has had an interesting trajectory from Georgia to the United States Supreme Court. And he would have studied the fact that what is in the dark will eventually come to light. So brother, be righteous, because when this man is through using, he will expose you. And unfortunately, Brother Clarence got away from hearing those types of teachings, and thought that he was one of the boys. And there is a boys club this year. It's a privileged boys club that this country has always had, and it goes on there. In other words, when I say privilege, they can do what you cannot. Not that it's right, but that because when it's time to be judged, the posse, remember the posse, who was in the posse? The dentist was in the posse. The judge was in the posse. The sheriff and the police chief was in the posse when they would posse up. And that was a posse of privilege. And that posse is still going on. And unfortunately, Clarence Thomas thought that when he married Jenny, that he was still a part of that posse. He never was. And they're finished using him now. So now they can expose him. No matter how quiet he's trying to be on that bench, they're letting him be exposed. Why him and not Scalia and others?
Well, I'm going to say this, that it's just interesting to see all of the things that are coming out now, Shannon. All of the things that are coming out that the American people did not know, but they know now. And I want to, just as we get ready to wrap up today, I want to close with this, and this is my personal comment. When we look at what's going on in our society today, if we read the Holy Writ, the Bible, we will see that these things were predicted that they shall come to pass. When Solomon said there's nothing new up under the sun. What has been will be. And it will be. But we know it when we see it. We know it when we see it. If we're true to ourselves, we cannot put our faith and confidence in man, but our faith or confidence needs to be in him who lived, died, resurrected, and coming back again. And we get too caught up on the things of this world and the people of influence. Paul said something to Peter, who was an apostle of Jesus Christ, in the book of Galatians. He said to Peter, he said, when Peter had come to Galatia, he was sitting there eating with the Gentiles and having fellowship with the Gentiles. But when the men of influence came from Jerusalem there, he cut off relationship with the Galatian people, the Gentiles. And Paul called him a hypocrite. Paul said that you allowed people of influence to change who you were. And too many of us have allowed people of influence to change who we say that we are. Paul said, but he would not change. He was not going to change because he was sold out to Christ. He was truly sold out. He wasn't trying to please man of those people of influence, but he was only going to do what he was commissioned to do. And too many of our politicians, black, Asian, white, Hispanic, whatever race they may be, they get caught up with being bought out with influence of those that are in power. And that's one thing that I thank God for the two young men who stood up, Shanan, in Tennessee, who said that we will not be quiet, we will not be silent, we will stand true to who we are. We came here to serve the people, and the people we shall serve. So don't take on the spirit of Peter, who knew better, but because he was around the people of influence, that he changed who he was. And too many of us, when we see people that we know and we're around people who have influence, we don't know those people anymore. But if you know me, know me. If you don't know me, that's all right too. But when I see people, and you know this to be a fact, Shanan, I don't let anybody sway me, no matter who they are, mayor, governors, presidents, or whomever they are. I don't care whatever title they have.
No,
It doesn't bother me. If I know people, I'm going to speak, and I'm going to talk to people, because that's who I am. And I won't let anybody of
you're
influence
unbought and
change
unbought.
me.
That's true.
That's not me. That's not me. I can't do it, because I know I'm sold out to Christ. And I'm going to, that's my true comment. I am Greg Fann, the preacher man, and don't you ever forget it. Shannon, you have a closing statement you want to make?
Man, how can you come back after that? Big Papa out.
Big Papa out. Well, don't forget, this is what I need for you to do.
Unbossed, Bishop.
Unboss and unbout. That's why we run
You're
together. We unboss and
unbossed and
unbout.
unbossed. I mean,
Look,
you know, and
yeah.
you know what, Bishop? Let me say this.
Sure.
Both you and I, and several others of our contemporaries could have been further along, have not had a problem with bowing and bending. When the Lord was telling us something in our ear, had we just been quiet, we could have made it a lot further than where we are. And I have to lives and to our children and those who walk with us. Because when you walk with a prophet, and I don't mean this in a sense of when I say a prophet, I mean those who speak the word of God, stand for God, in season and out of season, to preach the gospel in season and out of season. when you do that in this world, there's not treasure laid up for you, but there's treasure laid up in heaven. And so we could have been up farther along, but we would listen to that voice of God, that still small voice, and we would open up our mouths and be God's mouthpiece. And we do it, and folks look at us like we're crazy. I was talking to some preachers the other day about some things that I'd said and done, and they couldn't believe it. There wasn't anything wrong that I did. It's just that they said, well, most people would think that but not say it, but it needed to be said.
Mm-hmm.
And God's looking for women and men and women who are willing to speak what needs to be said. This is not a placating time. This is a time for straight talk and truth to power talk. And we could have been further along, but we just fine where we are because we sleep good at night. And our family, when they look at us, they know that there is a man, there is a woman that stands for righteousness and stands with God. And so where we don't have a whole lot of stuff, we got a whole lot of good name, and that's why you could look in that camera and say, I am Greg Fann. I can look in that camera and say, I am Shanan Eugene Jones. To degrade my name, you've done nothing to do that. And we speak what God says to us. And that's what's needed in this time. So I just want to say that and clear that up for a lot of folk. There's going to be a whole lot of folk looking for treasure that they spent down here. I treasure in glory, in eternity, where it won't rust and it won't spoil.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the two preachers here, and that's who we are. We do what? Nothing but straight talk. And if you like to be a part of Straight Talk and you have comments you want to say, put your comments up. You can email us a comment at straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. You can, if you want to be on the program, you can. If you want to have an announcement you want to have made, you can. Just send it in to straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. Now, I'm going to leave you with this. Shanan and I have been doing this program. Well, I've been doing it for 5 years this year. Shanon's been with me for 4 years, and we've been doing this program. And many, many people are now watching what we're saying because people are seeing what we're saying is coming to pass. That's what a prophet does. A prophet tells you what is to come. What is to come from what's happening now. And that's what we do right here on Straight Talk. And we have no respected person. The only somebody respect is him who lived, died, resurrected, and coming back again. Well, until next week, this ain't been nothing but what? Straight
Talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fann at FANN922@comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shanan Jones and Greg Fann, the Preacher Man.